Personal.
Personal, okay. I will look for it and then share it. And we are not seeing that graphic, FYI.
Yeah.
We're not seeing OBS, the OBS view that you were showing me when we were doing rehearsal. You heard that right, Patrick?
Yep.
Okay. Let me talk so I can confuse you for a while.
Well, looks like we are live on YouTube, so that's good.
Hello, YouTube.
I don't have any followers, so it's not a problem at the moment. Facebook won't initiate for some reason. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Hold on just a second. Try to figure out what's different than what it was before.
You guys drinking anything good tonight?
About to.
Poor Patrick needs something.
All right. So I need to share a screen.
Looks like it is. I'm seeing it on my phone.
Oh, yep, we're live now on Facebook, Patrick.
All right.
Sweet. All right. For those watching, bear with us. We're having some technical challenges right now.
We're
But we are
figuring it
getting
out.
there.
It's fine.
Just a few more minutes and then we will be live and ready to go.
Okay. I think we're just about there. If you guys are ready to roll.
Yay, technology.
All right. Well, thanks for everyone who's here tonight. As you can see, the thumbnail image is up. And I've got a couple really cool people here tonight to hang out and talk about travel and travel photography. And tonight I've got Amanda Donaho, owner of Amanda Donaho Photography, also a brand expert, photographer and retreat leader of the Illuminaire Retreat, which looks awesome, by the way. So I've seen a lot of press about that over the last, I guess it's been, have you been doing that about a year or two now?
Yeah, started in 2018.
Very cool. Also, I've got Bradey Jobson with me. Known Bradey for a long time. Also a photographer and filmmaker. And actually, Bradey and his wife have a really fast growing YouTube channel all about family travel. And that YouTube channel is called Raising Voyagers. And they basically have taken their family all around the world, which is kind of amazing. Also, other than that,
brave.
yeah, very brave. I want to hear more about that, actually. Also, just on another professional note, Bradey has done just work. I mean, I think with everybody. He's worked with dozens of huge corporations, Walmart, ABC, Hardee's, all kinds of big corporations doing commercial work. And then I think, what do you got, Bradey, at 39 countries now? Is that the count?
That is the current count, yeah.
Should have been 40. So why don't you tell us why it should have been 40, Bradey?
So I think pretty much everyone in this group, the three of us, kind of were impacted a little bit by the current epidemic. But we were on our way to Italy, and it came down to 24 hours prior to leaving, and we were just oh shoot, actually no, we were going to Spain. No, we were going to France.
I don't
I
even know
forgot.
where you were going.
I was well. The funny thing is, we canceled last minute, and then we ended up going to Colombia because we booked tickets to Colombia because there was only one coronavirus case there, and then we saw that the borders were shut down, and we just got a little bit nervous about it, and then canceled that as well. Everything was fully refundable, so that was we were very thankful for that. But it was a good thing because I think it was 4 or 5 days later when we were supposed to be halfway through a trip in Colombia that they ended up closing down borders completely without any notice. So
That's really sad.
yeah. And where were you supposed to go, Amanda?
I was supposed to be leaving for Portugal in 2 days. So, and it was my first trip to Portugal. And part of the fun for me of traveling is the planning. Like, I love to geek out over the planning and reading up on all these like pieces of history that I don't know and watching any movie that has any piece from that country that I'm going to as a part of it. And, I love everything Rick Steves does. I'll follow anything. So all of those like 9 months of planning for this trip, and
Which cities?
so we were going to go to Lisbon and Porto, and now it's all planned. So whenever this is all over, I've got a trip ready to rock and roll. So
We did Lisbon 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and it was amazing. We were only there for about 3 days. We wanted to go to Porto, but just didn't have time for it.
Yeah, when I was trying to decide where I was going to go for this trip, I was Googling about the most beautiful wine regions of the world. I'm sitting here drinking some Chardonnay while I talk to you guys.
There you go.
And came across the Douro Valley outside of Porto, and it's just stunning. And so that the whole reason that we decided to go there was to be able to go through the Douro Valley and see where port is made and go to Porto, and kind of fell in love with all of it online, and I'll just have to wait to fall in love with it in person for a little bit longer, I guess.
Yeah.
So
And then Patrick, you just got back, didn't you?
Well, yeah, our trip was right on we got back right before all this started. So I think we got back maybe 3 or 4 days before things really got crazy. And I remember we went to Costa Rica, and I was sitting there, and no one was really talking about it there. There was no discussion. Then all of a sudden, our last day there, it started popping up on everyone's social media, and I started thinking like, man, do I need to like get out of here? Are they about to shut this thing down? And we got back to the airport, and we were expecting some sort of screening or something when we got back to the airport, and it was just nothing. We just walked back in. We have global entry, so we didn't even talk to a human. We just scanned ourselves in the kiosk and walked right in. I'm like, one, I was glad that I didn't have to do all that stuff, but I was also a little worried. I'm like, oh man, is everyone just coming back in? And
Right.
and there was no screening at all. But yeah, it was kind of a weird feeling being abroad and seeing some of this stuff starting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that makes me sad that you guys both had to cancel your trips.
Yeah.
For sure. But
Yeah, no good.
yeah, well, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this kind of stuff is obviously travel is important to all of us, professionally and just for fun. But I was always curious when I travel. It means a lot to me, and all of us are photographers. It means a lot to me to capture what I'm doing as I go.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always like this tension of, do I get my camera out right now, or do I actually enjoy myself? So I'd be curious to see how you guys like balance that out, because I have a really hard time with it, and I'm not very good at balancing it, I don't think.
Yeah, I feel like the more that I am, so Italy is my favorite place. And I feel like the first few times that I was there, I was really, pulling out my DSLR and shooting good images every 5 seconds. And then this last year when I was there, I took my son with me, and so I was really excited to shoot him experiencing Italy for the first time. And his name is Roman, and he's always wanted to go to Rome and see the other Romans, and it's this whole thing. And so I was so excited to photograph him experiencing it, but like I just couldn't like I could not deal with carrying my gear on me, and I don't know, maybe just a year older, and my body was like, I'm not doing this. So I ended up shooting him with my iPhone, and like it was right after that I launched an iPhone course, actually, because I thought, there is so much that people could be capturing, just people who are not photographers, if they could learn a little bit about leading lines and light and, you know, how to use the exposure on an iPhone. And so I started teaching a course specifically after that trip with Roman, because that's what I used was my iPhone. Because I couldn't be bothered to get my big camera. And it is hard. It's hard to balance that and experience things versus, you know, wanting to document them and trying to go between the two. It's hard.
Well, I'm going to throw some images of yours on the screen back behind you, and you may be able to see them. Our audience should be able to. These are probably not iPhone pictures, and I'll just roll through them.
I don't think I sent you anything.
But these are awesome nonetheless. But no, I have that same. And I'm glad you traveled with your son, because we've been experiencing a little bit of that as well. A little bit more than we used to. Sorry, I'm going to do a few things online here as well.
Yeah, I think
is it not public?
It's not public. So a couple people on my end are asking to jump on, but the stream is listed as private apparently.
Sorry guys, let me try to fix it. I'm having trouble still seeing it on my end, which is weird.
I think it restarted. If you're on, could you, for those watching, could you just let us know if you can hear us real quick? We're having all kinds of internet trouble. The world is being throttled at the moment.
I know. I think we picked like the most popular live stream time, apparently.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we're good now. I see. Looks like there's
working?
and we're live. Yeah, the link from before ended, Bradey, but there's a new one.
Okay.
It's so
Got
weird.
it. Cool.
Yeah, I can't get anything to make it public or not public.
Yeah, you're public.
Okay, good. I feel like an old person. Okay, cool. So at least we left Amanda's awesome photo up while we were talking about all this stuff. But so, so we were talking about, you know, you're traveling with your son, and we've done a little bit more individual kid travel. I'm going to go through these photos as we're moving along here. And I think that's something that's really special to travel with just one child. I think you have 4 kids, right? Mm-hmm. We have 4 kids as well. And so, you know, as you know, logistically to travel with all 4 all the time is pretty crazy. And so we've been doing a little bit of that individual travel as well. So so what led you down that road just to take one of your kids, and then how did the other ones feel about it?
Yeah, so we actually started that with my oldest. I think he was 7, or was he 8? I think he was 8. And my husband and him went on a trip to Utah and did arches and lived their best life out there. And that was kind of what started the process. So Noah decided that he wanted to go on this trip out west with Dad, and we decided, okay, well, from here on out, I guess, when you're 8, you get to go on a trip with Mom and Dad, or Mom or Dad, and you get to pick which parent, and you get to pick where you go. So Roman wanted to go to Rome. My other son, Maxwell, went to Montana, and Harper wants to go to Paris. So we need all this to get lifted so that Harper and I can go to Paris.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, so it's really fun. It was interesting too with my experience with Roman. So he's the only one that's picked Mom so far. My daughter is picking me too, but we gotta wait to get to hers. But it was really cool to get to see, especially because I have 4 kids and Roman is a twin. So getting him alone in another country, you get to see a lot about your kid that you don't see when you've got the herd at home, you know. And he's a very go with the flow kid, and a little bit timid sometimes, and he was walking up to bars and cafes and asking for his decaf cappuccino like it was nothing, and speaking Italian as much as he could, and it was really cool, very cool, and he just fit right in, and it was a really cool experience as a parent too, to watch your kid one-on-one in that type of way and watch them thrive. So it was cool. I highly recommend that individual travel.
No, that's awesome. I know Patrick's done that. I have not had the chance yet to travel just individually with one of our girls. We have 2 daughters, and it's only ever traveling with both of them or with just Heather and me solo, without them rather. But I would definitely love to try that.
Yeah, I don't have the kahunas to do all four at the same time like you do.
Well, speaking of all all your kids at the same time, so it's not like you just went. You didn't go to the beach for a week. You didn't go to the Gulf for a week with your family, Bradey. You went to Asia for like a month. So I'm gonna roll some footage in the background. Tell me how in the heck you did that.
Yeah, so we decided to kind of take a mini sabbatical. So we spent I think it was 6 or 7 weeks across Southeast Asia, and we went to the Philippines, we went to Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, and it was just amazing. And it was a great opportunity to kind of capture some memories, and we started documenting them, putting things on YouTube, and started to be received well, and I've just kind of thoroughly enjoyed being able to document those memories and share them. It is crazy. It was not always easy to be traveling with kids, especially that long, but it definitely was worth it, and had some good times.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think when I talk to most people about traveling with kids and traveling abroad, I think fear is probably like the most predominant reaction that I get from most people. So I'm sure people in your life, like Amanda, were there like 3 people in your life? They're like, you're taking your kid where? Like overseas? Yeah. So how did you handle those people in your life that were trying to put some fear on you?
Is this for Bradey?
Either one of you.
I could take it. So yeah, we definitely got a lot of that, and I was a little surprised at first. And there definitely is fear involved for us, but we are doing our best, as cliche as it sounds, to kind of run into fear and try to get on the other side of that, because there's this quote, I forget who said it, but full life is found on the other side of fear. And that's kind of been over and over again what we've found. So even though it is a little scary and it's a little bit challenging, like, it's always been worth it to travel with the girls and for them to also face their fears. So yeah, they got to eat some scorpions.
You didn't give me a scorpion picture. That's what we should have done.
I didn't give you a scorpion picture. No, they definitely were a little fearful of that, but they had fun with it. But no, I mean, it is crazy, especially in crowded cities, watching after them and trying to make sure everybody's safe. But we are lucky, and that they are good kids and they stay by us, and we are man-on-man defense with 2-on-2 here. So it's good. And they're good kids. They've gone hiking with us down waterfalls and whatnot, and they tend to keep up.
No, that's really cool. Well, yeah, I feel like travel is a crash course to growth. I don't know, maybe, it just seems like I always learn something way faster when I travel than when I don't. And I was one of those people when we first got married. I remember, and I don't know why I said this, it's just dumb. I remember when we first got married, Brittany, she had traveled with her family. Her school went on like an 8th grade trip or something to Europe, and they did all this traveling, and they went all these places. And I was like, oh, I never need to travel. I mean, why would I ever need to leave the United States? It just sounds dumb. And I remember I was just like, I dug my heels in on it. And something happened sometime later, and I don't know exactly when it happened, but well, I mean, I guess I kind of do. Our church was doing a mission trip to Haiti, and I wanted to go, and I wanted to take pictures of that mission trip, and I've actually got some photos of that too I can run through. But that was sort of my first, I would call, I don't know, bold travel experience. So I'm not talking about going to, the beach or an all-inclusive resort and that sort of thing. That was sort of my first cultural, like, bold travel experience. And once I was able to go and like mix travel with photography, that was sort of a deadly combination for me, and something definitely changed inside of me. But I was able to experience, a culture totally different than mine, get that culture shock, realize that, where we live is completely different than actually a lot of places in the world. And I was kind of hooked from there. But I feel like now that's the kind of travel that I crave. I know a couple of years ago, Brittany and I went to Iceland, actually, and it's a place that Bradey showed to us, Isla Mujeres, Mexico. And we were just like, oh, we're going to go to the beach and we're going to relax for like, 8 days. It's going to be great. It's going to be so relaxing. And I remember we fought like the entire time. And it was just like, we just sat there like, we're like, well, I probably didn't tell you. We're like we're not pool sitting people. And
Right.
so I think the culture experience and then later on, as we move forward, even like, I would call it, this is kind of a cliche word, but adventure-based traveling, meaning going to do something or to learn something.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But
I kind of grew up the opposite. I did a lot of mission trips when I was young. And so I was going into, Honduras and India and kind of middle of nowhere places. And then I remember the first time I went to London and I was like, what is this? This is way too much like home. Like, I need to go somewhere that is much more like, has a funkier culture and, a different vibe all around. And I've only ever been to one all-inclusive resort. It was to shoot a wedding. And it's beautiful, but like, it's not for me. Like, I can't do the beach thing. I can't sit for longer than a couple hours. I want to be out exploring and seeing new things and meeting the locals and, in the back alleys of random spots, finding, some little treasured restaurant or whatever. But it's hard. I can't sit still on vacations. I like to come home tired. That's what I tell my friends. Like, if you're going to go on a trip with me, just so you know, we're going to come home exhausted because I like to just go and see everything.
Yeah, we are definitely not beach people. And real quick, I don't think we've said this, but for anyone watching, if you have any questions, this is a conversation between all of us. If you have any questions, we can see them. We're on Facebook looking at comments. So feel free to ask those, and we'll answer as we can.
so I have a question, Bradey, for you.
Yeah.
Speaking of
go for
that,
it.
okay, so how do you go about planning 4 to 6 weeks of international travel with your family?
That was the most fun part because we pursued it in a very interesting way. We bought one-way tickets, so we had no return date or time, or we didn't know how we were getting home. So we literally took it, I think, 2 weeks at a time. We first went to the Philippines, and then went to Manila, Siargao, and Coron, and then from there just looked and kind of basically checked out Google Flights and said, where can we go next? That's really cheap. And from there, I think we went to Thailand, spent maybe a week up in northern Thailand. And then literally week by week, it was, where can we go next? And next was Vietnam. And we realized it was way too hot to be going to Vietnam that time of year. So we only went for like 4 days or whatever. But yeah, that's literally just how we plan things. And a couple of times we got in trouble with it because we were flying into Indonesia from Vietnam, and didn't realize that with their visa application that you actually have to have an outbound flight in order to be allowed to enter the country. So I'm not sure if I should talk all about what I did there. Not entirely strictly legal, but we had to.
I remember watching that video. I was
Oh,
very
did you see
it? Yeah.
That's funny. It was very stressful because we had 2 kids stuck at the airport, and they were not allowing us to board the flight unless we had outbound flights showing that we were leaving the country. And we didn't have those, and the internet wasn't working, so we couldn't book them, and it came down to the last couple of minutes, and I had the flights like in the cart ready to check out, and the internet just died, and there was no other option. So I ended up having to Photoshop some tickets last minute just to be able to show immigration to allow us to get into the country. And it was insane. That was question just popped up. Most intense travel experience. That was definitely the most intense travel experience that I've ever experienced, because I was definitely in the position of thinking, are we going to get through, or am I going to be like arrested on the spot for this? Because they started like fact checking.
Here's my question for you: is how was your, like, if you're just fly by the seat of your pants, I'll figure this out. I already said I'm a big planner. I like to do the planning. Yeah. How was your wife in that situation? Because that's who I was worried for watching that video. Was like, oh my god, I would kill him. I would. Why didn't you figure this out?
Our first trip, she planned things out to a T, like all the restaurants we would go to and all of that. But I mean, we both kind of changed in the opposite direction of kind of just taking things in strides as they come.
Yeah.
So she was calm, and I definitely did not tell her about photoshopping things until after we got through immigration.
Oh my
So
gosh.
Couldn't have her. Yeah.
That's so
Wow.
funny.
speaking of spontaneity, I think that has always been our favorite way to travel. There'll be times, one of my favorite trips, we were in Bosnia. No, we were in Croatia, and we were literally just like looking around Google Earth and saying, where can we go next? And it turns out we were right next to Montenegro, and we popped into the car and drove across the border, and ended up being like the best part of the trip, just kind of changing things up last minute, ditching our Airbnb and looking for someplace else to stay. There's probably 3 or 4 cases of that happening where it turned out to just be the best part of the trip.
So what about you, Amanda? What's your most intense travel experience?
Well, I'm really type A, and I'm a planner, and so nothing gets too intense because I am not Bradey, and I don't fly by the seat of my pants well. I don't have a crazy intense story. I'm sure that when I get done with this, I'm going to think of some, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think none of it feels intense because I'm anticipating and planning for things.
You're doing it the right way,
Maybe.
the correct way. I don't think I could handle the doing the Photoshop during.
I know. Well, and two, I feel like I don't have the option of doing much with the fly by the seat of your pants kind of mentality, just because I'm a wedding photographer by day, and so my year is booked out year 18, 20 months in advance.
Right.
And I have 4 kids at home, and most of the time I'm traveling with friends and not with my kids. So it's like, you have these 10 days, figure out what you're going to do, get it done, come home, because you got to get back to work. And so there's not a whole lot of spontaneity in my travel. Once I'm on the grounds, of course, we kind of mix things up and change plans, but it's still, my type A gets the best of me, and I plan it out pretty well.
Yeah. Brittany is the same way. My wife, she's definitely a planner, and she wants to plan all those things. And I'm a little more spontaneous, but I think I'm leaning more planning the more we're married. But
She's turning you her way.
I'm turning that direction.
Yeah.
So I think my most intense experience wasn't necessarily, it was basically, I guess the spontaneity part of it was before the trip. We decided that we wanted to do something. This was right after I talked about going to the beach for 8 days. So we decided, for this next trip, we're going to go out and we're going to do something really exciting, really adventurous. So, we're just cruising on YouTube, and we say, Patagonia, that seems awesome. We're going to go to Patagonia, and we're going to go hike in the mountains. And so we had hiked basically exactly between the two of us, I think, one time before that, but we're like, we're just going to book it. I see old people on the trail. It's like, anyone can do this thing. It's not a problem. And so, of course, we go to REI, we get the backpack and the gear and all the stuff, and, we're good to go. And so we get there. Of course, it's beautiful. It's a ton of travel to get down there, but, we're supposed to be hiking multiple days through the Patagonian mountains and doing all the stuff. So I'll show a few pictures. And, of course, photographers are basically just better liars than anyone else. And so, I got this epic picture you could, on here right now. It's, tents in mountains, and it's beautiful. And Brittany's standing by the mountain. She's got all this, awesome gear on. We have the mountain in the background, but I don't know, it might be a little bit lag for you guys, but here's more of the reality of what was going on. She's going to kill me for putting this one on. But we absolutely were not qualified in any shape or form to be doing what we were doing. And so, man, we learned a lot about hiking and about life and marriage.
Sorry, the picture just popped up for me. It's a little laggy, but that's hilarious.
Sorry. Yeah, it's once you see it, it's fantastic. So, and I was worse than her. It was pretty bad. And so we basically failed on that trip tremendously. Brittany says, nice. You are welcome. But that's more the reality. And again, as photographers, oftentimes we can show something that's different than, than what reality is. And we're pretty good at that. But I would have to say that was pretty intense because we literally didn't know if we could finish or not. We had to make last minute plans actually to end our hike early because we realized that the timeline that we had based everything on was based on people who knew how to hike. And we were like it took us like double the time to do it. But it was a good experience in the long run, but it was also pretty awful at the same time. But no, that was good. That was amazing. So between you guys, and I think you probably already answered it somewhat, but I was curious. So Bradey, if you had to choose, are you more like a cultural guy? I know you went to Cuba and you did a lot of cultural stuff there.
Yeah.
But I also know you did like surf lessons in the Philippines. So
Sure.
like, what's your preferred? Like, what would you recommend to people to
Between
start
culture and in nature?
Yeah.
Shoot, that's a hard one. I think definitely for us, it's been more cultural. I mean, Cuba was unbelievable. I mean, both from a cultural and architectural perspective. Like that's another thing. Like we love going to places that have really, at least I do, really cool architecture. It's part of why I love Italy so much. But yeah, I mean, I just love being able to dive into a culture that is so different from my own. And it's so weird, but it makes me feel more at home to be in a experience that is as far away from my home culture as possible. But at the same time, it's like looking back at trips like Iceland. I mean, it's impossible not to just kind of fall in love with the nature travel as well. I just don't do that as much, unfortunately.
So speaking of Iceland, Bradey, let me throw this out here, and I've got a few of my Iceland pictures I'll throw up as we talk about this. One of the questions we just had that just came in is, what are the challenges of shooting in the cold? And that's actually really good timing because I know when you were there in Iceland, it was freezing.
It was brutal. You were there just shortly after, right?
Yeah, probably a month, but it was a significant month after for Iceland weather.
Yeah, so Iceland. Oh, good. You have some pictures. Great. So Iceland, I made a terrible mistake because I was so busy up until leaving for that trip, and I did not prepare. I did not go to REI. I did not buy a nice, comfortable coat. I went with a rain jacket. So I traveled with one sweatshirt and one like wind jacket, like windbreaker.
Oh my
and because I was seeing it was going to be like
Type A planner over here is like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
This is the wild.
And that was going to Iceland, like coming out of winter. I think that was February or March. I can't remember exactly
Oh my
when.
gosh.
But the temperature lied on the forecast by a long shot, and the wind chill, especially walking out to the airplane, the picture that you were shown there, was just unbelievable. I mean, that wind would just knock you over. So I think the wind chill was like -5 or something like that, and I was in a windbreaker. So that was miserable.
Well, and I did that walk out to the airplane I'll put the airplane back on. So there's this airplane out there in the middle of nowhere, and is it about an hour hike? I don't remember. But
it's so deceptive because you get on the hike and you think it's going to be like a 20-minute hike, and then you keep walking and walking and the scenery never changes. And I swear it was at least an hour and a half to get out there. It was brutal.
But on the way in, at least when we walked out there was a headwind, and it was no joke, 30 or 40 miles an hour.
Yeah,
headwind all the way out.
I saw your video, and that's what we experienced too. Like you could barely walk through the wind. It was crazy, but worth it.
But worth it.
Sort of.
Until you get hypothermia and die, which is
yeah.
So
man.
I think a lot of the stuff I just went on a trip just recently to Costa Rica, and I would like your guys' opinion. So that was our first sort of group travel experience, and it wasn't quite a tour, but it was basically it was a surf school. You go and there was like a group of, I don't know, it was 20 or 30 of you. It's La Pointe camps if you guys are interested in checking that out. But it was like a group travel experience. Have you guys ever done anything like that? This was our first go at it.
No, but I would love to hear more stories because you haven't told me yet.
I know that's true. Got to save it for the Facebook Live.
I haven't, except for my first trip to Italy was the reason I went there was to shoot PR photos for a touring company, um, a company called the Catholic Traveler. It's a man based in Rome, and he does tours, bringing in big groups from different parts of the world, and doing tours through Italy and also through like Holy Land tours. Um, anyway, so I just was along for the ride on one of these just to shoot PR photos for him, just him speaking to his groups and the groups experiencing different things and going to all these different places in Italy. And so I wasn't officially a part of their group, but I was along with them the whole time, just shooting it. And it was really fun. It was fun. The group that I was with was they were all from a parish church in Canada. I think all of them were from Canada, and a lot of older folks. And I just had so much fun with them, like staying out at these restaurants in the middle of teeny little piazzas in Italy, and till the middle of the night, you know, having a glass of wine and eating lots of pasta and swapping stories. And that part of it was really cool from the group aspect that I'm sure that a lot of people get to enjoy, is, you know, meeting other travelers and getting to swap stories and things like that was really cool. That's the only experience that I've had with it, but
Yeah, I really enjoyed like the shared experience, and
Yeah.
I was kind of nervous about it because we were going to, as dumb as it
You have
sounds.
any pictures?
I do. I've got pictures I can show. We were
Okay,
going.
good. Bring them up.
We were going to. Quit yelling at me, Brady. We were going to a surf camp, which I mean, it just sounds stupid for someone in their mid-30s with 4 kids to go to surf camp.
I
But
think it's cool.
yeah, it was really cool. We were the oldest people there for sure. See, most people were in their 20s, and so we would go and you would do training during the day with them, and then you would go and you'd hang out the rest of the day. And they had like a little pool and seating area and all that kind of stuff you can hang out with, and you'd eat dinner with the group every single night, and it was a really cool experience. That it was the shared experience part I thought was something I liked way more than I thought I would. Because
Yeah.
until that point, we've been basically self-guided. Even when we went to Patagonia, it was completely self-guided. There was no tours, and there was, we were just doing everything on our own. But there's some Costa Rica pictures going on in the background. But I would highly recommend it if you do find something that you can go with a tour group like this. I would, especially if you can learn something together and experience something together. I mean, that was something that I really enjoyed, and I think Brittany enjoyed as well.
I would love to. I know that Intrepid is one that I keep seeing a lot of. They do, like, especially the Morocco trip. I would love to do that because they just organize everything for you. You get to do things that you would never be able to do otherwise, and it's pretty affordable.
No, well, and the point was very affordable too, I thought, because you can get all kinds of different levels of housing, anything from shared, hostel sort of dorm housing all the way up to like, a private room or a private bungalow sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, but meals are included most of the time, and yeah, I thought it was a really good deal for what it was. Again, that's La Pointe camps. If you guys want to check that out, they've got camps in, I think, Portugal, Norway, Costa Rica, Sri Lanka, a bunch of other places. If you want to check that out, I do have Kaylee. Hey, Kaylee, what's going on? Kaylee had a question for us. Kaylee Turner. Another great photographer around here. She said, do we shoot all film or was everything we just showed digital? And for me at least, it is all digital.
I don't even know how to shoot film.
Yeah, I mean, I would screw up about half of them. I mean, I do it a little bit, but I don't have a ton of experience in that. But with travel, I especially don't. And maybe Amanda, you can relate to this because you were talking about you switched to your iPhone when you were traveling because you just wanted as least amount of stuff and weight as possible. And that's kind of the way I've been going more that direction as I travel, is less and less stuff. And I used to carry, a bag full of lenses. Now it's just one camera, one lens. When I travel, I mostly use Sony DSLRs, but definitely all digital. But I do like that film grainy look. So that's probably what you were seeing from Lightroom, pushing
what's sad about
that grain lever
iPhone?
up.
There have been so many times that I've shot an iPhone image that is indistinguishable from a DSLR. It's insane.
Mm.
In one of the pictures I sent you, the overview of Cuba, of Havana.
Oh yeah.
That one was, I'm almost positive. You still have that?
Yeah, let me find it real quick.
Pull that one up, because I was looking through my pictures earlier today when I was sending you some, and I pulled that one up, and I could not remember if that was DSLR or if that was iPhone, and I just went back and forth, couldn't decide. Went back to my phone and realized it was an iPhone picture, and it just blew my mind. Like,
Yeah.
half the time, if you have enough light, you know what you're doing. Like, it kind of is like, is it worth bringing out all the equipment out? But I still travel with a 30-pound bag of
That's
camera
Italy.
equipment.
That's not
Yeah.
Cuba. Sorry.
It's fun to play around with that too. Like I was saying on that trip with Roman, I just
No, there.
was over my camera and I just wanted to use my phone and it's
Yeah.
I found all these had all these images that I was like, I really love this and this worked just fine. And then on that same trip, David Schmaus, who's not with us tonight, recommended this little crappy point and shoot film camera to me. And I bought that for my son and loaded him up with some Portra 400, sent him on his way. And he took a bunch of photos through Italy on that trip. And I stole it and took some as well. But I didn't send you any of those, but I love all of the photos that came, not all of them, but a big chunk of them, a surprisingly large chunk of them on this little film point and shoot camera. Between that and my iPhone, I was like, this is great. And it's so much lighter. My back's not hurting at the end of the night because, I'm sure you guys are the same. When you're overseas, you're walking 12 miles a day. Like we walk everywhere and carrying all that gear on you all day really, really wears on you. So it's fun to play around with different kind of gear too, that is even down to just an iPhone.
How old is your son that you gave the camera to?
He was 8 at the time of the trip.
8. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
So for those who didn't hear earlier, Amanda actually has an iPhone course. You can go to her website and check that out. And let me pull up the website there. That is representyourbrand.com. And
Yeah.
she does a bunch of cool of branding things there and courses, and she's got retreats and stuff like that. So check that out. But
Cross your fingers that my November retreat in Italy still happens.
Oh, it'll be fine.
I hope you're right. I'm holding you to that.
Where are you going? It's outside of Florence, is that right?
We're staying in Florence, actually, like in the heart
Okay.
of Florence.
Very cool.
We got this super awesome rental with a big rooftop
Awesome.
terrace that overlooks. It's right on the Ponte Vecchio, and
Very cool.
yeah,
Ah, here we go. I think they'd probably be able to hear us now. Well, thanks for hanging out. For those who stayed, that was a marathon of equipment breakdown. I did have. Let me back up to a question somebody asked a minute ago, Amanda, and maybe you can help out with this one. So Tim asks, my daughter, 15, very interested in getting into photography. What equipment would you suggest for a starter? Yeah, I think. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to look through to see if there's some sort of other thing I can do here, and maybe this is a good time to slow it down. If we can't get it figured out, we can maybe resume at another time. Um, yeah, because I think they can hear me now, but they can't hear everyone else. But that's cool. Well, I guess we can go ahead into here since we have some technical difficulties and we can't hear everybody. If that's cool with you guys, maybe we can catch up another time and resume when Zoom isn't killing our stream. Hashtag zombie apocalypse. So thanks everyone for joining in, and sorry for the audio issues. And next time maybe we can get it figured out and Zoom won't kick us off. So I appreciate it. Thanks, Amanda. Check out her website, representyourbrand.com, Amanda Donaho Photography. Check out Raising Voyagers on YouTube if you want to see Bradey travel to Southeast Asia and all over the world with his 2 kids and do some pretty crazy stuff, eat scorpions and all kinds of fun stuff. So subscribe to him on YouTube. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate it, and hopefully we'll do it again. All right, see ya.